We can't have a comic book expert on the show and not do a comic book discussion.
I'm an expert.
So
I wouldn't call myself an expert.
we're not even talking about you. We're talking about Jason. And
it's a new title. It's going on my business cards.
so we're going to do a little thing. 6 must-read comic book storylines. Now, I'm not saying these are the best comic book storylines ever because we would have left out a lot. So I'm going to start. So I think, well, my number 1, I have 2 here, is Batman the Killing Joke, which is the best Joker story. If you must read something about the Joker, read that. So the Joker he's holding Commissioner Gordon, Batman's trying to find him, but we're going back into a story the Joker's telling, and he's kind of an unreliable narrator, so we don't really know if what he's saying is the truth. We never know if what he's saying is the truth. And Batman is trying to find him. They have probably their best conversation, or their most like a conversation, or closest to sanity. Except for that one time Martian Manhunter gave him sanity. And it was, he's saying, you know, this doesn't have to end in me killing you or us killing each other. It doesn't have to be that way. Gordon really wants him to bring him in the right way. Gordon's been tortured, Barbara's been paralyzed. It has been a horrible day for him, one bad day. The Joker wanted to prove this one bad day could ruin a man's life by also going back to his story about how one bad day ruined his life. We also bring in illusions of the Red Hood, and we discover what he's about. The last panel in that comic is really special to me because we see this ha 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 all over the place. And Batman is holding his arm out to the Joker. You can't really tell if he's putting his arm on him and laughing along or if he's choking him to death. And that's been under a lot of debate. I don't think he's choking him to death because I think that undermines what Gordon said earlier. Though we do understand that they're kind of like parallels of each other. They're both fucking insane, but they've accepted tragedy in different ways and handle things in different ways. Chaos, order. It's great. It's a mosaic.
My one choice, if you're talking about best comic books or storylines of all time, is all of All-Star Superman. And that's 12 issues, and it's by Grant Morrison, drawn by Frank Quitely. Because it is Grant Morrison's attempt to tell the Death of Superman storyline, except this Death of Superman storyline doesn't happen because he gets punched in the face a lot. It happens because he goes too close to the sun and his cells become overcharged. So it's Superman's final days, and it becomes the 12 labors of Hercules. And there's a lot of Silver Age stuff, and Grant Morrison makes it cool. And he shows Superman as this icon, this mythology, as Superman is always trying to save us, even to his final days. And there are issues in this that will make you cry. Like Superman gets the one last time, go talk to Pa Kent, the final time. And he doesn't save him, of course, again. And then you get to see Lex Luthor's realization of how Superman sees the world. There are so many brilliant moments in this that I don't want to spoil any of them, but if you have any inkling of a great DC Comics storyline, you have to read All-Star Superman. Superman's storyline is all about emotion. That's what makes Superman work. If you don't make it about emotion, it doesn't work.
If you make him like a cool, I can do anything, it really doesn't work. But go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so a little preface. I did more research and beleaguered more over this story than I have of any other
I see the Wikipedia
story.
printout.
Yeah, I was torn between wanting to tell people to read my favorite comics, but like, oh, obviously you've already read Sandman, and you probably read Fables. Do I recommend one Fable? You need all of them, and all my favorite authors and all my favorite.
We broke you with the story.
Yeah, I just had a really hard time doing it. So what I ended up with is my favorite story of my favorite hero, which is Spider-Man. And so the one I'm recommending is called Kraven's Last Hunt. Now Kraven, I think, often gets relegated to like B or C list status as far as Spider-Man's enemies go, but he's a great villain and really timeless in a lot of ways. This one came out in '87. He is Russian, so this is shortly after the Cold War. So now we've got a crazy Russian, influencing stuff in America. Spider-Man's in his black spider costume, so I mean, you could draw parallels to modern day events that are going on right now. But basically in this one, Kraven has realized that his hunting days are pretty much over. He's only had one person that's never bested him, and that he hasn't bested yet, and that's Spider-Man. So in this point in his life, he's fucking losing it. He's going crazy. So he resorts to like luring Spider-Man into a trap and shooting him with a rifle. He's all about hunting naked or with his bare hands and stuff. So now
like most Russians.
Yeah. So this is really the death of Spider-Man. And then what Kraven does, unsatisfied with Spider-Man's defeat, is he puts on Spider-Man's costume and goes to prove he's a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man. It's told with a lot of parallel storytelling. It's the themes that run through it are death and rebirth. There is a pretty substantial, significant death in this 6-episode arc. And it's actually, remember, they used to try to get you to buy different books by spreading out one series over 3 different publications. So you've got the Web of Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Spectacular Spider-Man. You can get it in a trade paperback. But check this out, you'll really like it. Even if you're a fan of poetry, you get quite a bit of William Blake in there too. They replace the tiger with the spider, both with wise storytelling. But I think you'll like it. It's older than other stuff we're recommending, but really worth reading.
We are running our time the fuck out, but I'm going to try to hurry up with my second one. It's the Dark Phoenix Saga. Jean Grey, she's being manipulated by someone named Mastermind, and she's thinking like she's a different person at a different time. It causes her to act a different way. It causes her to emote a different way. She's the Black Queen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And she dresses like Raven from the Teen Titans, kind of. Anyway, so this culminates in her coming into contact with the Phoenix Force. We're not really sure if the horrible thing she does as the Phoenix is coming from her or from the Force. It's kind of under debate. And there were a lot of troubles during this being made. She killed millions of people, but she chose to die as a human rather than to live as a god. And I think that made her finally really interesting to me, and seeing that chaos kind of unleashed from her was really refreshing and fun. She thirsts for chaos because she is fire and life incarnate, the Phoenix.
I'm learning a lot about you through this pick.
I think we're learning a lot about all of us. I like chaos.
I like lizard people.
You're a broken dead man who wants to redeem himself. But go ahead, Jason.
My second choice is a series by IDW called Locke Key. And there are 6 miniseries, but I'm going to say all of them, because once you read the first, you're going to keep on going. It's written by this guy named Joe Hill, who is a name that you're not going to recognize, but he is the son of a guy that you will recognize named Stephen King. He is Stephen King's son. This is his comic book. Whoa. The basic storyline of this is that there are this family called the Lockes, and their father gets murdered, and they decide to move back to the old Locke mansion, which is this crazy Lovecraftian Victorian house that has a lot of doors. And the children start finding keys. And if you put a right key in the right door, weird things start happening. The first key they find is a ghost key. They turn it, it turns them into ghosts. And they get to float around. There are all types of keys, there are all types of mysteries, and behind certain doors, there are monsters.
So it's not Narnia.
No, this is a horror book, but it is a horror book about a family, and it is, if there is any book to any person that says, like, I want to read comic books, this is the one that I say to them every time, because this will immediately make anybody a comic book reader, because it is such great writing with such great characterization.
I've never read that.
Locke Key.
Jason, I'm going to go read that now.
Go read it.
That was the whole point of the segment, right?
Yeah, but that's one I've legitimately never heard of. Like, I don't know what it is.
Okay, so for my last one, I picked what Brian K. Vaughan is working on now. I'm a huge Brian K. Vaughan.
6 things.
Yeah. I'm going to ruin. I didn't think they'd catch on. Anyway, what he's working on now is a book called Saga. And I recommend you read the first 6 issues, the first volume. It's out in trade paperback now, because that's all you'll need to thirst for every subsequent one after that. Now, it's an ongoing series, so it will keep going, and you can support it with your patronage. Anything I use to describe it will make it sound stupid, so I'm not even going to try. He has crafted the most interesting, new, fresh universe that I've read in a long time. And it takes a lot of source material. It's a little bit Star Wars.
It's Star Wars versus Lord of the Rings, almost, is the way I would describe it.
Yes, and a little bit of Game of Thrones, and a little bit of surrealism, and
a lot of fantasy elements.
A lot of fantasy elements. Basically, there are 2 warring species of extraterrestrials, and they didn't want to mess up their own home planet, so they kind of outsourced all the fighting to other planets across the galaxy. And it's a story about love, it's a story about parenthood, it's a story about running away and finding yourself, and it's awesome. My friend Dave gave it to me, and I haven't been able to put it down since.
If there's anything about his argument that didn't convince you, there's a character in that book called Prince Robot, and his head is a television.
And
those are our picks for 6 must-read storylines. Let us know what you must read. Please don't be angry. We can only pick 6. I know Tim tried to break the rules. Please let us know what you think below, and please be sure to subscribe